Okay, good evening to everybody. Thanks, first thing, to Myontech for inviting me to this event. I think that has been very successful. I have met several people that I think that will be interested in collaboration in the future, inside Myontech and outside Myontech also. And talking with David about what to do here, what's the idea of the workshop. Instead of doing something very related and only related with the bike fitting and the electromyography, that I think that has been very good explained today morning, several cases, very interesting cases. I'm going to talk a little bit also of the business point of view of the electromyography related with the developing of the startup on the electromyography from our point of view that is characteristic of the south part of Europe. That's the first point. And the second one is to try to show live how some of the change that we can do in the movement can be represented on the Myontech technology using the electromyography, but in life. It's not only, as this morning, the results of several sportists that have done some tests and was maybe difficult to understand what was the real situation of the data acquisition, but also to see how the data are acquired and how the data are managed in a live process. So that's my nick on Twitter if somebody wants to or is interested in following me about the things. Several times I mention Myontech when we are doing several courses, studies, or something like that in Spain. We put it on photographs, so it's very important for us as we are also a startup. It's very important to mention and to keep on following and repeating the same things a lot of time because it's hard for the public in general to understand what we are talking about. So for the people that we are inside the biomechanics or maybe inside the EMG, seems that the worldwide will understand what we are doing, but what in general, in my opinion, happens is exactly the opposite, that nobody understands nothing about what we are doing. So that's a very important reflection point. This is a little introduction. When I see these kind of things, in this case, the wearable electromyography, I start thinking of the development of something that is today very popular, very famous. It's a heart rate monitor that started in the 80s, more or less, here in Finland. And it's quite curious because the first 10 years of evolution of the product was more or less restricted to the professional use. Was available for the public, but the public didn't understand, didn't see the utility of the heart rate monitor in the 10 years. It was not 1 year, 2, no, there were 10 years. On the next 10 years, the population, the people, the public starts understanding what's the heart rate, if it is necessary, how to manage, and everything. So it's quite slowly process. Maybe it's characteristic because it's the heart rate. No, I don't think so. With the GPS and the podiometer, that is maybe more obvious than the heart rate, happens exactly the same. At the start, it's very complicated to try to understand the utility of this kind of recorders, of this kind of monitors that give information that normally for the owner of the company or for the people that is involved on that, they are basically for understand everything, but the public doesn't seem exactly on the same relevance, the data. So it takes another 5-10 years to income to the general public. And the third example, they are the power meters in cycling. Has happened exactly the same, around 10, maybe more years to come on to the public, and the people needs and understand the utility of this. So from the point of view of Myontech, that probably everybody understands perfectly here, I understand perfectly the relevance of the EMG data, I have to understand that for the rest of the world, this importance is much more lower than for mine. And this is not a process related with electromyography, it's related with sport technology. Other thing that is quite interesting is that when it's created this kind of technology, the way of working with it is quite complicated for the normal people. It's not complicated for us, it's not complicated for the professional that we are involved with, maybe sellers, maybe teachers, maybe sport science professionals, because we train quite fast. But for the public, for the people, for the physiotherapist that is in Milano right now, and maybe he can be interested, it's very complicated to try to work with this. You see, no, it's not complicated. Yeah, it's very complicated for him. He doesn't know how to manage, he doesn't know the reliability of the data, he doesn't know about the protocols, he doesn't know nothing at the end of the day. He has got a thermometer, but he doesn't know nothing about temperature. That's the point of the electromyography. No, because it's electromyography, because it's data, and it is very big quantity of data. So, for example, in the heart rate monitors, from the first Polar on the market till the first educational comprehensive program of formation in heart rate, they passed 10, 12 years for understanding that the people didn't know how to use the heart rate monitor. So I think that they are important references from the point of view of the company to wake up and try to don't make exactly the same mistakes or maybe the lies on doing the things, trying to get in the product as soon as possible to the public. What the company, our company does in Spain is to doing biomechanical analysis for users like triathletes, for example. They are final users, and we use the EMG technology to give more data to the customer and have more objective reasons to make several changes or takes our professional decisions. And also what we do, and we are really successful on those, is giving courses to people that wants to use the electromyography. And it's curious because what we do is to give more courses based in electromyography than selling the electromyography itself. So the public, what's telling that is more interesting, tell me how it's working, don't tell me what the machine is for. But I'm not interested on that. I'm interested on give me your recipe, give me your Thermomix, and tell me how is done this cooking, because it's what I want to do to win my money. We do some webinars that are on YouTube, courses, and you will see. This is a little bit example of a running analysis. We control the kinematic data with the one system available on the market. We control also the kinetic data from the point of view of the impacts of the runner. And obviously, we control the physiological data, in this case, with the EMG. So for us, it's very important to try to use the technology in our analysis, but this is very complicated to do when you don't have enough knowledge. So it seems that technology is going to make the knowledge, and that's not true. The knowledge is one side, and the technology is another side. Our customer target is based in physiotherapists, podiatrists, osteopaths, sport doctors, trainers, bike fitters, biomechanics, orthopediatrists. It's true that 95% of our customers are professionals that they want the EMG for improving their services. They see the EMG like a tool for winning more money, giving better or more services. That's an important reflection. Some of them work in the public area, in the research, universities, sports medicine centers linked to the government, as the professional that has come this morning here to show the data. But this is the minimum part of the public, because right now, the public area in Spain is not very healthy. There is not a lot of money for investment in technology, and our biggest budget and our biggest customer is the private area, the small physiotherapy center, the small sports medicine private center that they want to offer new services, that they want to use the electromyography to give in more information to the customer, and they want to do more business. So you will see later on the conclusions that my customer, maybe this can be exportable somehow to the rest of the world, is people that get the EMG to having more business. They are not using the EMG for measuring his muscles. They are using the EMG for measuring others' muscles. And the others, they are going to pay for being measured. That's a little bit the idea. I think that this morning has been well explained, several interesting things of the cycling and the relation between EMG and the cycling. I have put it on some highlights only to show, on my point of view, the basis that is necessary to teach to the people to start working on them. You cannot arrive, like seller, for example, to a sports center and say, okay, this is the electromyography, and start working with this, doing bike fitting with the electromyography. That doesn't work, for sure. You need to explain how is the protocol of working. What we are going to do today with our triathlete is to show how is made the starting of the process, doing a screening of the these sports on this case. But I am showing the highlights at the end of what is necessary to know about, for example, cycling and EMG to start working on that with the EMG wearable. So pedaling is quite easy, but this way of pedaling is very individual, much more individual than could be seen from outside. Some of cyclists make several mistakes that kinematically cannot be corrected. They use their muscles in the wrong way, and you have to teach and you have to make the modifications to try to change this related to some of the parameters that you have to respect. This is a list of more or less most common problems that we find when we put it on the screening with the EMG. We are going to see today if some of this is appearing, is not appearing. The hamstrings normally they are more used than the quadriceps. That's not a very good news. I will explain why. There is a lot of cases of asymmetry over the bicycle, and that cannot be because the bicycle is very symmetric. So the asymmetry of the body, or the functional movement of the body over one thing that is closely symmetric is very problematic because it gives a lot of comfort problems, health problems, and at the end of the day, injuries. The kinematic versus kinetic incongruence, you can see that there is symmetric movement from the point of view of the kinematic data, the space and the time, but you can see that this kinematic doesn't come on with the kinetic and the physiological data. You can see in the movement symmetry, but you can see asymmetry from the point of view of the physiological origin of this moment. The motor skill, everybody organizes their muscles in a very individual way. So it means that for doing exactly the same, our computer, the control of all of our muscles, made the organization in a very particular way. So this is very important to know exactly, on this case we will see how this triathlete is going to organize his muscles, and they are obviously common patterns, but there are other situations where two cyclists do exactly the same by two different ways. And then promote modification. The EMG normally is used for seeing the amount of intervention done by one professional. For example, the bike fitter, as Jean-Luc, that see before the bike fitting and after the bike fitting, what is the result and where are the changes. So there is a good tool to try to compare the intervention of the professional. I think that this is key for understanding why we are selling this product to the professional. They can see the result of their job. Not only to see them, the customer also can see the result of the job of the professional. It's like an external justification. Because the podiatrist can say, oh, the insoles that I have done, they are really good, and you will be very happy with them. You can have faith on this professional, or maybe you can see that the electromyography works in a more symmetric way, and in this way the confidence on that is very important. And believe me that the faith on sports sciences works much more than should, or maybe than we could expect, but works. So the people is necessary to not to be scared and have confidence on the professional that is trying to doing something on you. This is a little bit based on the theory, the use of different muscles, that there are two things very important on the EMG, has been very good described this morning. One is the intensity of the contraction, and the other one, where this muscle must work. Because one of the most common problems is that the muscle makes the contraction, okay, but doesn't make the contraction on the expected place, on the expected time. And makes the contraction later, longer, or maybe in another pattern. And the injury normally is coming from this kind of problems. This is exactly the same, but with more simple, adjusted to the quadriceps and hamstrings organization. So you can see that in cycling, the organization, the temporal organization of the contraction is this. First the quadriceps, then the ischiotibialis, the hamstrings, and then the other leg, So we are going to see like a scale on the analysis, and if doesn't appear this scale, means that the movement is not well done. So this is the temporal analysis of the cycling. On our cycling experiment of today, what we are going to do is to see the influence of several things that can be very easy to change. Our idea is not to come here and change several things on the bicycle, because it's not very polite from the point of view of a high-level sportist to come me here, move the bicycle somehow, and probably don't end the job as should be. So the idea is only to change the movement of this guy, the way of organizing everything, and see how is coming, or where is coming, the electrical activity from. We are going to check exactly this exercise, what we are doing here with our students in our course, to change things, to see what are the expected changes on the EMG. So our students, our podiatrists, our physiotherapists, our trainers need to see how the changes are made to expect what is well, what is not well, what is wrong, what is not wrong. In the running, we are talking more or less about the same. This is a little bit of graphic demonstration where each muscle is relaxed or is contracted. This is a more well-presented data from the point of view of what we should expect when the quadriceps must be contracted and where the quadriceps must not be contracted. Exactly the same with the hamstring. All the other muscles are very interesting. Everybody is coming here to say, oh, Miontech, please put it on 70 sensors of each trouser to try to measure everything. Okay. Then we have to decide if the price of the trouser will be available or will be not. And more important, we have to explain to the final customer if they want to pay for having 70 sensors on his pants. And the answer is probably not. So as important as where the muscles must contracted is also the coordination between those muscles on each side. So the intermuscular coordination is key for understanding what makes me pain, what doesn't make me pain. So there is one way that can be correct, and all the other ways of co-contraction normally, they are not the right way. What we offer, or what were we offering on the running courses, really? We teach to the people to run, but also we teach to people that they want to teach people to run, so reproduce the model at the end. And what we show to them is to what is normal, what is abnormal. We are going to see today this part of the course. And also having references. This is good, this is not good, and you have to try to arrive to this kind of numbers, of this kind of proportions, of this kind of, I don't know. So it's very important to teach to the people how the machine is working. I remember that yesterday when I arrived to the brainstorming about the machine, the first thing that I wrote was, what can I do with the data? So this is what you can do with the data. See what's normal, what is not normal, and how to improve and how to achieve the better movement, organization of the movement. In the running, as in cycling, we are not going to see today the demonstration, but at the end of the day, the methodology is exactly the same. You can change the own technique, the stride length, the shoes, the speed, and the frequency. Changing these kind of things, you can see, or you can expect several changes here. But it's very important for the professional not to become in a homemade research. All of us probably know that we are going to change those things. They are going to happen some things on the screen. But the professional doesn't have time to start making his own exploration like a pioneer to see this shows works on this way. This other one doesn't work. With the stride length, when I elongate, when I'm shorter, when I use a higher frequency, less frequency, the professional, the homemade professional that works in his clinic cannot spend time, not a lot of time, making homemade research to know how to work with this. You need to give the formula in it. So the Thermomix need the Thermomix and also the recipe, and everything must go very fast. If not, the business doesn't support that. Nobody is going to close his clinic to try to explore this and then to become this in a service. Nobody is going to do that. Nobody do that, not with electromyography, no with nothing. That's the reason that the time spent from having the product to arrive to the final people has been 10 years. Because it's necessary to become people that start explaining how to work with this. The decision, strategic decision of this company must be to accelerate this process. Or if not, wait a little bit for the development of the normal situation. This is my last screen talking about this thing. I have been speaking in small groups with some of Miontech partners. From the point of view of the use and the research, not only for the use, the private use, the last user use, and also the research, to have the possibility to measure in the maximal voluntary contraction is very important and must be very easy to understand and must be very easy to work on that, because the absolute values several times doesn't mean exactly what they are telling. No, today is more electrical activity. No, maybe today is exactly the same. Maybe the conductivity today is different. So everything in electromyography is not a Miontech problem, it's electromyography, surface electromyography problem. They have to work on this kind of values. The other one is important too. The absolute values are important, but the relative values to the conductivity, they are very important. If not, it's very different, it's very difficult to try to compare the data between different subjects, because each one has got a different pattern of organizing the electrical activity. So I think that this can be a very interesting improvement to try to be more accurate and try to have inter-individual references, because today I can compare me with myself today, but maybe me with me after 3 months cannot be very comparable, because I need the maximal voluntary contraction proportion. So, like resume and conclusions, the gadgets in general in sports sciences needs around 10 years of use in professional and sports sciences to be socialized, to the people understand what's going on, what are they useful for. I mean, on this case, the example will be, if you want to find somebody making running around the coast in Helsinki, from today, there are 8 years more or less to try to find it. Because they need, the society needs this kind of time for using it like last user. This gadget must be, in my opinion, offered with the packet of the knowledge. You are selling the machine, you are selling the gadget, but it's important for a professional to get in the way of working with it, closed way of working. They are not going to ask for a different protocols. Who is going to ask for that, he's going to do that. Okay, that's nice, this, the way of improving, but everyone wants the Thermomix. Do fast job. And it's necessary to teach the professional the use in protocols for diagnostic and evaluation that they are expecting for of doing that. They want not to do any kind of research. Walking and jog, running and cycling are very popular in sport activities in the Caucasian population. We got an incredible good tool to manage and to achieve and to demonstrate differences. So I think that it's not very necessary. Normally, when I go to one trainer or one trainer comes to me and that's very interesting what you are showing, but I need another 8 channels for doing something. He hasn't understand nothing about the machine because that's not the problem. The problem is not to having more channels for measuring nothing because probably what he's looking for is not possible to pay by the public. So normally, when the customer comes to me selling that he needs the upper part of the body or he needs another 18 muscles of the legs, he's telling me indirectly that he's not going to buy something from me because he's put it on difficulties more than reasonable and good ideas for buying my product. So if it's making like excuses for not buying to me the product, so I understand easily that I'm losing my time. The EMG diagnostic and protocols are easy on those activities and can be sold like an added value of the monitor. I get surprised because this can be used in javelin with a very success, but it's much more complicated to try to work in javelin than in running or in cycling. So I planted the people is doing these sports, and it's much more easier to work on this sport. So try to find how to work on EMG in javelin. It's incredible, it's admirable, but it's a way of looking for the business quite complicated. How many javelin throwers we are going to pay for an EMG analysis?